Hi folks, to have the privilege of taking the Orange Line trolley, as they call them here in San Diego, from 12th and Imperial toward El Cajon, Arnell, where you can go to Walmart and thankfully, unlike in Honolulu, not get assaulted and robbed as you buy 2-gallon jugs of water. And I'm sorry folks in Honolulu, I'm really sorry to all of you. I really am, because this is a place where it should be safe, but you've got a thing where you've got tourists and you've got locals. Tourists and locals, I think they've just gone way too far with pro-local policies, because the economy is, ideally the economy is driven by, the place is kind of like I don't know, San Antonio, Texas, or it's economy, Silicon Valley. This isn't about tourism. It should be all about tech, big tech. You had Snowden from Honolulu. He was Honolulu. This was a guy based in Honolulu. He had to go exile to another plane to Cuba, empty seat. That huge fiasco that developed out of that, and we had that. It's just such a very sad thing that it's based on tourism, because now you've got Filipino people with lower IQs like me, yours truly, the greatest real estate, Mathew Ursua, that is expected to do the right thing. As Charles Murray said with Richard Herrnstein in The Bell Curve, the people that are working these jobs, washing dishes and cleaning rooms in hotels, they're doing the right thing. They're doing the right thing. But I was looking at this Daily Aztec here at San Diego State University, an amazing campus. We stopped in here off of that very train, place to charge the laptop. We charged the laptop. We're going to get moving with things, but I took a look at their latest. Every Wednesday they have the Daily Aztec, and $175,000 on a party. Okay, now by the way, this is Christian Hauser here, staff writer for the Daily Aztec. Anytime I see writing like this, and it's not terrible by any means. I've seen a lot worse. Kaleo was a lot worse when I worked at Kaleo. You've got folks at the community colleges, it was a lot worse. It still is a lot worse. You look at UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, they have their student newspaper, the Rebels down there, and it's terrible. It's so terrible. But Hauser's pretty good in terms of writing, but you read some of it, and because of the way he's strung the facts together, it makes you want to question, because he wasn't clear enough about why he put it there, whether $200,000, if that is the price tag according to, and he's just quoting another newspaper. Do the research yourself, guys. $200,000. According to the Times of San Diego, had an estimated cost of around $200,000. They're talking about this, was back in... Let's see here. SDSU's 125th anniversary celebration, according to the Times of San Diego, and this was $200,000 price tag, according to the Times of San Diego. But the student came in and testified in support of a what is California's proposed legislation that mandates 53% of the Cal State University on instruction. But he came in, testified, and said that you guys spent $175,000 on a big party. But this is SDSU. You see what I'm saying? So what's not clear to me is whether SDSU foot the bill. I mean, I don't know anything about the requisitions here and how they pay for this stuff, but he should have made it a little clear, because you're looking for, you're trying to write for an outside audience of people like me. They're coming in, grabbing the newspaper, homeless people at 2 a.m. kind of thing. So that they know more about this campus, and that if they've got children either out of wedlock or with a wife, they totally screwed up. It's not their fault. They're a narcissistic psychopath. They have slow mental processing, just like me, and they can't really support their families. It's not their fault. They want to love their children. They want to work jobs that pay $200,000 a year, but they can't, and so they're trying to be there for their son. They're trying to be there for their daughter. They're trying to be engineers and architects, and at the very least, people that can write ad copy. There's people that get English degrees, big waste of time. I have to say, speaking of here at university, let's talk about the degrees. At UNLV, the way they teach people that are going in to get an English degree, it's a big, real easy, simple, it's the easiest school. But you're going to go in there. You've got teachers that got their PhDs in the era of, in fact, they got their PhDs from UNLV in the era of, they're going to go in and this is business writing, right? So this isn't creative writing. But what they specialized in was not ad copy, beautiful ad copy, Oprah's Paradise like me, where the baseline meets the meridian. There's no way to go wrong with it. No matter how you live your life, in the end, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. You should just have as much as possible and call me where the baseline meets the meridian. In fact, we have 3 anchor points. We're going to talk about that. Humboldt and Mount Diablo, the devil. We conquered the underworld. There's so much in literature. You've got Mount Diablo a reference, and of course down there in San Bernardino. But the reason we're going to talk about this is because these people, they're going to start studying this from people that specialize in writing manuals for Aristocrat, right? So these companies, Aristocrat and other companies that make slot machines, right, that are regulated by the Nevada Gaming Division. And anytime these casinos get fined, where does all this money come from that we don't pay a lot of taxes? We don't have an income tax in Nevada. Where does all this money come from to pay for the schools and the parks? Well, gaming, the licenses cost a lot of money for these hotels to be regulated. And then what are they regulating? Like the real estate division is going to fine you $5,000 for this or that, and your broker $500 in Nevada. We're talking for the failure to supervise. Well, what are they fining you on? What are they slapping you on the wrist for? And it's slot machines aren't putting out in the right way, or there's it's even if it's unintentional rigged gaming. So they're going to fine you because something's wrong. It didn't put out the jackpot. It didn't put out the amount, and so that but there's these manuals that you have to. There's these 800-page, 1,000-page, 1,200 pages, almost as big as the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac guide for the mortgage lenders. There's like a Bible, and you got to read through them to service these slot machines. And this is what this guy would write. This is the stuff these people would write. These professors at UNLV. That's where they're from. And so this is, if you're in tech, if you're in, right, this is the place to go and get an English degree if you want to be one of these people that write, so all these call centers, people are coming in, working almost like they're in Manila, Philippines, or they're in India. No, it's the United States, and they're running these call centers, and you've got 100 people in a room, cubicles, headset on. And of course, you're reading off of manuals quite like this to familiarize yourself with the various different companies you're servicing. Working in a call center, poor people like me expected to do that because it's the right thing to fucking do, right? But okay, so that's why I would question that. I have to do my research, I guess. It's a good thing about not being a reporter yourself anymore. But anytime I see someone quoting another newspaper, it's like you just get lazy. But by the way, in all fairness to Christian Hauser, I got to look into this guy. He seems like a pretty good guy. He's a quality writer, and I got to say he's been doing the real estate reporting here at San Diego State University, Daily Aztec. So shout out to Christian Hauser here at the Daily Aztec. But $175,000 on a party, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. But I was going to say on the Orange Line train, I was talking about on the Metrolink northbound before you go through Riverside. Not far, that train station, not very far. You get on a lift or whatever to UC Riverside. My stories, the reason I have this kind of obsession with colleges and college campuses is because you meet these people. And her name was Kirsten Ames. She was 33 years old, and she had 3 kids. And she was just the most beautiful woman from California. Camarillo. I know where it's at. I'm familiar with the area. There's Reagan Park there, but I keep getting it wrong. I've got dementia at the age of 30. So whatever, she's from there, and now she's probably 36 or 37. You start thinking about life, and Obama's talking about the futility of life when he was, he can talk about anything. He can go on TV when a Continental or United Airlines CRJ crashes, and you'll comfort the nation about it. Was his first week or first month as president, his CRJ crashes in New York, and he's talking about, the fragility of life. It's not futile. It's not fragile either. It's a huge thing. Life is a huge thing. It's a big thing. It's this light that's shining, and I need you to think that way. All right, but you're coming. So I talk about the cemetery that comes into view, and it's quite meaningful because you're there. And I was talking about how the power to have unlimited money, the power to have unlimited intellectual power, if you're not from a rich family or you're not from a genius family, and you don't want to be one of these people that are cleaning the hotel rooms, especially as robotics and AI. I tell people, there's not going to be construction, Caterpillar, John Deere. We just saw, in fact, at CES in Las Vegas. You thought I was crazy. Just this last year, 2022, when we had CES, they unveiled the self-driving tractors. And I guarantee it, this is stuff they could have done 10 years ago. You think the Air Force had these unmanned aerial vehicles run by GPS? You think they couldn't do this 10 years ago and release a commercial? It was the very people that, hated Alex Jones was right about everything, but some of his beliefs, we got to stand up against self-driving. We got to stand up against automated because I'm a man. My life has value. And he was taking the research of Jordan B. Peterson, the pop psychologist, and he's useful in my world through the eyes of Mathew Ursua. In my, like David Snyder, the hypnotist, has the world according to David. Ooh, like, is that something out of the Torah and the Tanakh? That's David Snyder. I have the world according to Matthew. That's important to me, absolutely. Jordan B. Peterson on a number of fronts, including conservatism and liberalism and the necessity of liberal political philosophy because of being poor and retarded in the first place, was why we should, like I said, where I look at it, if we're going to defend the ideal, we don't go to heaven and stay Barack Obama. We go to heaven and Donald Trump is there in that loose fit, this sort of crappy fit, not totally tailored Brioni suit, a drab New York look. That's what I love dressing that way. A drab New York look. You lost a little weight. I like looking like Donald Trump. Actually, it's a weird thing. Crazy guy. So, but you get up into heaven, and there's so you got to incorporate a little bit of your identity into this painting, because your life had a value. So Obama loves Disneyland, Hollywood. So there's a big Disney castle just like up there in Anaheim, Disneyland, but it's gold and it has a T on it for Trump. It's a Trump Disneyland, but because now Barack Obama gets to be a multi-billionaire and to live without the constraints that required him to develop liberal philosophies throughout the course of his life. So when you go to heaven, you don't stay Barack Obama. You become Donald J. Trump. $11 billion. All right. So if you think that way, all of a sudden, why would anyone be a Democrat? No apologies to Gavin Newsom and his beautiful wife there. I touched the wife and kids. Jennifer Siebel. DJT skipped right past her. For good reason. Nothing wrong with a little older. When you're looking for women, nothing wrong with a little older. What's Kimberly Guilfoyle? We all grew up to Kimberly Guilfoyle, Fox News generation, making satisfying our cardinal urges in front of the TV, and not familiar with our bodily functions just yet, so making a few messes that we hope Mom didn't see when she came downstairs. Kimberly Guilfoyle on Fox News. But what we're doing here is we're tracking City Council Mathew Ursua in Oceanside. This is Fortunate's home in Oceanside, California. That's North County. And we're a little far from home today, but on this excursion through the region south of Los Angeles, indeed, tomorrow we're going to be having May 4th City Council in Oceanside. Corey Jensen, the realtor, actually, and the folks there, Mayor Esther Sanchez in Oceanside, California. We're going to be looking at their City Council meetings. And this is the kind of thing, this is why I love City Council. By the way, we're not only tracking Ocean, they're under County of San Diego, of course, in North County, but we track a lot of places. Among them, Honolulu. That's my point of interest in Hawaii. There's a number of counties there. There's Hawaii County, there's Maui County, there's Kauai County. So among the four, you got Honolulu, the 6 inhabited islands. Many of them falling under. So Maui has also Lanai and Molokai. But they have unique, different flavors, different feels in terms of the governing bodies as well. But we focus on Honolulu. Seems like a bland choice. And we go Oceanside out of the dozens of areas you could choose that have governing bodies in San Diego alone, and of course San Diego. Why Oceanside? Well, that's where I am, and also because it presents a unique opportunity to look at such a sort of random picket. Why would I not choose Santee or La Mesa? But you look at this unique group of commissioners there, or city council members. The personalities make for something very, very magical when they're governing there. And you've got Chris Rodriguez too, the Republican in Oceanside, full Marine there that came in. But you come down here and we're going to keep an eye on city council at home tomorrow, tracking them. And the reason we do that is because this is an area where even Honolulu City Council, where we've got Augie Talba, the comedian himself, that's been there a number of years now, and people are shocked at how great a legislator this man is, how great a governor rather he is there as a member of the city council in Honolulu. But that's why we track Honolulu. Also, we track Las Vegas, city of Las Vegas. They're under Clark County Board of County Commissioners, but the city of Las Vegas, that's not Henderson, it's not right. But the reason I like city of Las Vegas is because, again, it's about personality. Just like Oceanside, you've got Michelle Fiore and Mayor Goodman there, and so we keep our eye on Las Vegas. They're going to have their meeting in the morning. Oceanside City Council gets underway right there at the Oceanside Civic Center, not far from the public library, not far from the Modern Museum of Art in Oceanside, Honolulu, Las Vegas, and of course, Nye County Board of County Commissioners. They sit as the Pahrump, the unincorporated area Pahrump's governing body during their meetings that they have, and we are not far from Eden. We are not far from paradise in so many ways. In fact, still very much there. Pahrump is paradise because we track what happens there. You go to these meetings, you look in on them virtually, or you sit in person, as I would have liked to do, but we're down here, so we're going to be sitting watching it. And this is where you get your first taste of these folks that are making policy in planning and zoning that's going to shape development for a long time coming, because this is what's going to make the headlines. The decisions they make about who to give the variance, the decisions they make about who to deny the variance and why, and the rationale behind their policy making, any changes they might make to city ordinances about zoning and planning, where this is why we want to take development in this direction. And that's why you want to watch these, because the headlines, and also to think, you've got some of these towns have small town newspapers, like in Pahrump, there's Pahrump Valley Times. They have really raised the bar when it comes to covering real estate, including the policy making by the Nye County Board of County Commissioners. Deborah Strickland, the broker herself, Deborah Strickland, the chairwoman of the Nye County Board of County Commissioners. But they've really raised the bar when it comes to covering it. At least, I don't like the way these writers do it. Selwyn Harris, they're terrible reporters. But in terms of content, they're doing a lot more. So they're focusing on the right things. At the very least, I think it's a good idea, because these headlines, we're going to see them now, and they're going to exist perpetually online and in the microfilm reels in the libraries, but no longer are these relegated to these small towns. In a world where now you can Google Pahrump, Nevada, or you can Google Oceanside, California, across the world, you're going to start to see this everywhere, and in real time too. As soon as it goes up for the people, Coast News, what they have in Oceanside, it doesn't have the same kind of community, small. It's not the same, like as Pahrump Valley Times. It's part of a Las Vegas Review Journal family of newspapers along with Bowler. But you're going to look at this, and it's all of a sudden outside of that area. You can look at it. So foreign investors, whether you're talking foreign outside of the United States or outside of the state, but people from outside of the area. California is such a huge economy. I would be using the term foreign investor to describe someone in state from, say, Northern California investing in Oceanside in some way, businessly or real estate-ly, putting up buildings. But you could make the case that even though it's in the same state, and therefore from the policy perspective, there are fewer hurdles to clear for these business people keeping it in California, it's a foreign investment because of the sheer nature of it, from being that far away. And it's an amazing thing to see. That's why we track these city council meetings. All right. Main point, though, is on that train from El Cajon, the power to have all of these things come from the dead. That if you don't have a grandmother, if you don't have a grandfather, if you don't have a rich uncle that has croaked in the last year, and you're about to get a multi-million-dollar inheritance from, you see these Hollywood movie scenes where you're sitting in an attorney's office, the whole family's there, and everybody's finding out what they're gonna get from this dead uncle. Who said you don't have one? Meaning is found out of necessity. And I talked about Yuri Geller not being able to prove he could bend a spoon with his mind, when I believe it was the CIA or there was a group of psychics was trying to really test it. Like, he couldn't bend the spoon. It's something he can do. Oh, because he uses, fake spoons for his magic act. Well, okay, I don't think so. Here's what there's a real psychic ability to move and alter nature mentally, but he couldn't do it under observation because he didn't need to prove it. And in fact, even if he couldn't do it, who the hell would need to bend a spoon? I mean, this spoon here that I've got is perfect for eating soup, whether I'm in a soup kitchen, or whether I'm in a Denny's, or whether I'm in a Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, where this is the best lobster bisque, you know what I mean? Or it's a clam chowder, full San Francisco kind of clam chowder, right there on the wharf type of thing. That's what the spoon is for. Who would need to bend the spoon? You don't need to do that. There's the necessity doesn't exist. But meaning is found out of necessity, as moolah coming in, raining on you as a real estate investor or as someone that owns interests in businesses bigly. All that moolah just coming out, like in like the black people in these videos that people who say, oh, that's still the police come to the door. That's terrible stuff. We don't like police coming to the door, but if they're making it rain. That's the God. When I watch black people videos, that's beautiful stuff. It brings tears to my eyes. So that comes from people that have died far from empty, that still had broken dreams that they were holding on to on their deathbeds. And on the train from El Cajon, indeed, what pops up was, for what seems like miles and miles and miles, there's a cemetery bound for Lemon Grove and La Mesa, and the final stop of the Orange Line in Arnell, the end of Arnell there at the transit center. And you just watch as this waste of space hits your eyes. Cemeteries, biggest waste of space. People buy there. In fact, you saw that picture I took in Las Vegas just before I left, after my final, what might have been final for a little while, we'll see, drive east on the 160 at the cemetery on Sunset and Eastern. I said YOLO, bring back, we're talking about YOLO County up by Sacramento, but you only live once. And it says right there, stop in at the cemetery office. There's a property inventory. It's like, this is Assessor John Prudon kind of thing. Like, you come in and see the assessor, make it easy for us. But these people buy these plots and prepare for their entire lives to occupy them. Biggest waste of space. But they do die empty. Sometimes. Rarely. By that point, who the hell would care where you're going to live forever, where you're going to be forever, what tombstone the world might be able to see. There's a lot of these people, they've been dead so long. We're talking 100 years almost. You go to these areas like this one. I mean, who's left to go and see them? And even for ones that have died 20 or 30 years ago, these spaces, where your coffin lies. People forget to go and see old family members. But when I was on the Metrolink train north, passing through Irvine, and that cemetery popped up, there was a family there. I wrote about it a little bit. There was a family there, and they were just huddled in on it. There was a thing going around and around, those pinwheel things, like when there's no to abuse, and they put them all in front of the Hawaii State Capitol so they don't rape women and they don't abuse women. Victims of, it's a pinwheel, the children going around and around. This daisy wheel spins in the wind, and they put it in there and they put flowers. And I don't know what's worse, to forget about someone that's died or to have some sad reason to remember them. And of course, if there is a sad reason, of course, it's an unfulfilled dream. Maybe you are the fulfilled dream. So let's see through their eyes, and let's make it rain like black people in the black people videos. But I'm reminded, because like in Great Expectations, fetch me a file. You ever heard of whittles? You ever heard of a file? And they yell at you. Say, go live my dream. Take care of things.
Welcome to the river where you set to rain. Condescendingly, take a seat, take your life and plot it out in black and white. Well, I never live a dream of the crown kings and the drama queens. I'd like to think the best of me is still hiding up my sleeve. And I want to tell you, stay inside the line. When something's bad on the other side, I wanna ride
feeling. And
We all 32 of us just got together and Ray asked for our help, so we did what we could.